listening to Conversations with the Citizen.
And welcome to Get Your House in Order. My name is Bren Sharif, and I come to you weekly with hopefully topics that are of interest and are of concern that will be conscious raising. That is my expectation and my hope. Thank you again for joining us. I just left an event that I think was very, very much needed. And voices that were there at this event pretty much stayed in the same theme. Being a person that matured in the 60s, and some of you may have done that too. You remember when they used to have love-ins? Well, this was a love-in. And this love-in, the name was Love in Action in Real Time. And it was put on by residents in the Park Manor area that live in and support that very unique business corridor that runs on 75th Street from Cottage Grove west to State Street. It is a very unusual business corridor in that it has a little bit of everything and still has thriving African American businesses in that corridor. And what brought this together is that unfortunately some of the people seeing these thriving businesses have plagued the businesses with acts of violence, thefts, break-ins, and it has dampened the spirit but not killed it. And so they have made that decision that they're going to come together, getting cameras, better surveillance, better lighting, things that have been effective in countering actions of crime, but most importantly, to quicken the hearts and minds of the people that live in that immediate area and those surrounding areas to be supportive of the Black businesses. You may be familiar with some of them. You've got Bubbling Brown Sugar. You've got the health food store there. I think the gentleman's name is Dr. Stevens. And you have Soul Veg. You've got any number of businesses. You've got Limbs, Barbecue. You've got any number of businesses that are in that corridor that we as Black people should take pride and support at least once in a month. Go to 75th Street, that 75th Street corridor, and there's something there. You've got the Frame Up Shop, you've got Flowers First, Flowers by Erskine, and you've got, I'm at a loss for words. I should have actually put it down. Go and find out for yourself. That's what I would say. Go to 75th Street and see some of the businesses that are there, boutiques, cleaners, those businesses that are the heart of our community. We need to support them. We used to have several corridors like that, but now, unfortunately, 75th is pretty much the last bastion of Black-owned and predominantly Black-supported businesses. Integration, we talked about integration. Integration has never happened. The best that we have ever had is desegregation, because integration means you support my business today, I support your business tomorrow. And it has been a one-way street. We have gone to white businesses, and I'll just call a spade, but the white community has never come to the Black community to do their business. We spend our dollars with them, but they have not agreed to spend their money with us. So let's flip the script. Let's spend money with our businesses. That's how they sustain. And I ask you, who is your physician? Who is your dentist? Who is your realtor? Who does your lawn? Who does your dry cleaning? These are all businesses that are available, that are operated and owned by Black businesses. They could thrive. They could be the employers of your children or grandchildren, or you, if you're still in the working market or in the workforce. These are things that we have not thought about. And what you don't think about, you can't bring about. We had business corridors that were owned, and those businesses were owned by Black people. And if it was not owned by Black people, those smaller businesses in our community at one time always hired Black people. Now we've got people that have moved into our business corridors. They don't hire us. They hire their family. They hire their friends, but they live off of our dollars. This doesn't make sense to me. And perhaps I'm hoping that it will bring light to a circumstance or a condition that we can change. When I was a child, they used to have forest fire prevention commercials, and it was a little bear. His name was Smokey. And Smokey's advised everyone, only you can prevent forest fires. And to make a parody of that, I'd say, only you can prevent economic decline in our communities. It is up, if it is to be, it is up to me and up to you to support our Black businesses and call them out. If you think that they're not doing what they need to do, how they need to do it, call them out. Tell them, if you want me to support you, this is what I expect. This is the least of what you can do to meet my service needs. And guess what? They'll either get with it or they'll quit it. And that is what we have not done. Instead of complaining, go to the source. I happen to have been in a restaurant on West 95th Street that I had a friend that was being admitted, and I went to eat outside of the hospital, outside of Christ Hospital, and I looked in this restaurant, and everyone in that restaurant was Black. All the patrons were Black. And I said, oh, I've got to say something about this. So very nicely, I went up to the owner and I told him, I said, I've really enjoyed the food. The service has been excellent and the prices are reasonable. He said, don't even go there. I know where you're getting ready to go. And I said, you do? He said, yeah, you're going to ask me why I don't have any white help. Why I don't have any Black help in my establishment. I said, as a matter of fact, you're absolutely right. I was going to ask, when I look around and I see all of these Black dollars in here, including mine, and I don't see any Black wait staff, I have to wonder what is going on. He said, well, what you can't see is that I have Black cooks. He said, my front staff is not Black. He said, and do you know why? I said, I have absolutely no idea other than you haven't hired them. He said, nope, that's not the case. He said, you don't even know who I am, lady. He said, I have a Black wife. Said, I have tried to hire her family, who happen to be Black. He said, the problem that I have is that the Black staff that I want to hire, they don't want to work here because if they want to be a part of a restaurant's wait staff, they would prefer to be in those areas that are higher tippers. He said, they won't work here for me. This is not where the high tipping happens. He said, I would love to have black staff. That was a wake-up moment for me. I had never thought that that was the case, but I do know that it might be the truth. I had a young man that stood outside my office when I had an office on 77th and Cottage. And it had a large parking lot. And over the course of a day, and it happened to be, and if you're familiar with it, it happened to be in the post office area. And so people were coming and going all day long. They'd get their mail or whatever, throw their junk mail that they would get out of the mailbox, and it littered the lot. And so this young man was standing outside the door, and I asked him, I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm asking for money to help me buy a PlayStation. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, how would you like me to hire you so you know exactly how much money you're going to make, and that will get you closer to you buying your PlayStation? He said, what did you have in mind? I said, this lot, I'll give you the bags, and I'll give you a thing to help pick up the paper and trash, and you go around and clean up the trash. He said, how much are you paying? I said, well, it shouldn't take you more than about a half an hour. That's about how long it takes me to do it. And I said, I'll give you $20. He said, $20? I said, yeah. He said, to walk around this whole big lot and pick up all of this paper? I said, yeah. He said, no. He said, I can stand here in a half an hour and do nothing and make almost $20. That gave me cause to pause. There's a problem. I asked him, I said, do you know that $20 for half an hour of work means that you're actually making like $40 an hour? He said, well, I know what I do when I'm standing here. These are false values that we have, false expectations. People would rather buy what they want and beg for what they need. And this young man felt more comfortable in standing out there. And he was a young guy, had a nice, pitiful face. And, people see you begging, and they inevitably will give you something. But this young man felt better about begging for something rather than working for something. These are character flaws in our community that are far too widespread. We need to teach our children that it takes effort, it takes work. No one owes you anything. These are things that they talked about, the love in real time. Because the people that are committing these robberies, this vandalism that's happening in that stretch of land, they are not white folks. They are our children. They're young people that I think are on the wrong path. And if the path is to be changed, it is up to us to instill the values. There was a time when Black folks had the value. It's not sufficient to be as good as other people. We have to be a cut above. We have to be better than. Because to get recognized or to get things, we always had to be better than. And now we have slipped below the bar. it doesn't make it, I don't have to do anything but beg. Sad commentary. It's better to beg than to work for something where I have earned it. Earning is not a part of the thought process. If you've got it, I need it, I want it, I'm going to get it. That is a perpetuation of the violence. That is a perpetuation of the entitlement that some of our youth unfortunately have. The question was asked, why? And it is lack of enforcement and building up of home training. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean picking fault, finding fault. Praise your young people. Make them feel that they are the best, the brightest, the ones that can have all of, and Scripture says all of their needs are met through Christ Jesus, meaning all of their needs are met because that is a promise. That's a God-given promise. But you have to be faithful to something. That is a higher standard. That is not believing that because you want it, you deserve it. If you want to have, and I say this all the time, if you want to reap tomatoes, you got to plant some tomato seeds. If you haven't planted anything, why would you be entitled to the harvest? There were stories, fables that used to be told when I was a child, like the little red hen that had asked other people, come and help me do this, we'll all benefit. And so maybe that syndrome of coming together to work together for a common goal, for a common good, and beginning at home. Let your children know that you go out and you work for them so that they can have some of the things they need, but as they get older, there are things that they need to do to help you, help the whole family. It's synergistic. As we give, we receive. You cannot, should not expect a harvest if you've put in no work. And that seems to be what is very a common held belief. Easy come, easy go. We buy what we want and we beg for what we need. These are not the principles on which Black folks made great advances from the time of slavery, from the time of Reconstruction, until I'd say the middle 60s, when the civil rights legislation was passed. You might note I have a pen, NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the oldest civil rights organization, as it is said, the oldest, the boldest, the most revered, and the most feared, used to be how the NAACP was viewed by both white folks and Black folks. Membership here in the Chicagoland area was over 100,000 members in Chicago. Now, it's just a few thousand. Why? My thought is when the civil rights legislation came and protected those, quote, freedoms that we were looking for, that fairness of having this republic that we live in be those benefits being spread abroad, Black folks believed they no longer had a fight and there was no more work to be done. But in this day and this time, in this climate, I think some of you might see there is a fallacy in that thinking, because as it says in Job, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. As the government had given us those rights, now the government is taking back those rights. And so we are subjected now to more suppression and oppression without the governance of the law protecting us than it was even before the 1960s. So I'm asking, please rethink. Start with the family. Start with your family. What are those things that are important to you? How can your quality of life be changed by things that you do? They say the family that prays together stays together. Is your family faith-based? Do you believe that there is a higher power? And that higher power does for those that do for themselves. This isn't anything I'm making up. It's in Scripture. Is your family are they decided to stay together, or are they divided? Do you focus on your samenesses and put aside the differences? Do you answer the needs through seen and unseen needs? If you see a need in a family member or for a family member, fill it. That spreads out into the community. You see litter, pick it up. You didn't put it down there, but that is something that tells anyone coming through that community that the people that live here don't give a hoot and a holler. These are things that show lack of pride, lack of concern, lack of interest. Flip the script. Be that prideful person, that person that takes an interest, that person that wants to be a change. President Obama said that we were the change, but we have to change. The sign of insanity is to keep doing the same things and expect a different outcome. Love is commitment. So in these love ends in the community, that is commitment. Love in the community is commitment in the community. Every individual is an integral component part of that commitment. Choose you this day that you will be committed. And many of the things that we are concerned about now, old things will pass away. Behold, all things will become new, because you will be a new creature. You will have been transformed by the renewing of your mind. Change your thoughts. You'll change your world. You'll change your affairs. You'll change your conditions. Calling things that are not as though they were. I believe in us. I believe that we can be all that God made us to be. All we have to do is stick to it and to do it. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Be committed to your community as you want your community committed to you. This is Bren Sharif, thanking you again for tuning in to Conversations with the Citizen. See you next week.
Remember to make plans to join us again next week for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real news